That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
Talk about humbling. It was just that. Wow. I thought I had a good one.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
classmate
you got a good one.
fucking made it into orbit.
You got a good one. The engineer that was on my submarine, Henry Mills, and he was 25 maybe. He was already like the third senior guy on the sub. 26. He was 26. Real genius. Graduated high school early, graduated college in 2.5 years, or 2 years, and then his entire reason for going into the sub fleet was because he wanted to go to NASA. As far as experiences go, from the Navy, it's either pilot or
Sub to spaceship.
Yep. So he was actually, while I was there, he was doing the interview process to get accepted to NASA, into the astronaut program. And it was right before his final interview. They did a final med check, and they found out he had some minor heart condition or something. It was either heart or blood related that disqualified him from it.
He was going up on the next, I think it's Branson's one.
Kurt.
Yeah. Which, you know what? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. 90 years old though.
But
I know. Is it dangerous?
what's the worst
I
that
don't know.
happens? If he dies,
Send him off. The burial at space.
I know it's just PR. Getting into space is pretty cool.
I saw that headline. I was like,
and I just realized
that's nice, yeah. I just caught eyes on him. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's it. It looks like he's got a legitimate
down my leg and I'm going, it can't be raining because the drops are getting on my
there's some in the sea.
Yeah, it's coming off the edge of the table. It's just like, sorry. So probably going to get home.
When we're diving, Connie was just like, she was just focused on what she's focused on. She just goes. There was like one time we were kind of in a narrow pass on the last one. I was hovering up a little bit, looking at something, and I stopped for a second, and as I turned around, she was like, there's probably about this much space between the bottom and me, and she just through.
You know, along those lines, at one point on one of the dives today, my fin bumped. Or either my fin bumped or my arm bumped somebody. And I looked back and was like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize there's exceptions for it. But in general, with diving, because of the medium we're in.
Yeah.
It's kind of a slow,
Yeah. Yep.
not a and I bet for divers, for the most part, that translates into life, too.
Yeah.
Versus, seriously overlooked this stuff.
Yeah. Why are you bumping into me? Oh,
Yeah.
we're in this little canyon and there's 6 of us here. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I bumped back. It's a neat people you interact with. And fascinating. Yeah, you bump into some idiots sometimes. Crash into people. You get some crashes.
I felt that last time today. I felt like I was bumping into the reef. Where I was like, I would look at something
Yeah.
and then I would start to drift with the surge, and then I would think my body was this way, and then I'd go and I was like,
And that's when you're dealing with current and surge.
Yeah.
You do that. Okay, so our first week of actual scuba dive, because we did a Discover class down in the Keys.
yes.
These 3 guys in a row, and then went up to Red. We were doing 3 days with Lady Santa that was sadly out of business now. Down with Europe and Iowa. There we went further down into the Keys, just above Key West. And we dove with an operation. I can't remember which one. They ran a 6-pack.
Oh, okay.
So a 6-pack is basically 6 divers in the boat. And the Keys, rarely will they put somebody in the boat with you. So we get there for the first day. First day, we're late getting away from the boat. It's just the 2 of us on the boat. And they're hoping somebody else will show up to make it more economical, which is why we're late. So by the time we get out to, we're either on Sombrero or Lou. We're like the last boat out there. And all the good Marines are missing, so we're way out on the edge. And even after we finish our dive and all the boats have re-jumbled, we're still the last one because we're the last ones up for the dive. Miserable dive. We got lost in the sand. This is only day 4 diving and we're diving by ourselves.
It's crazy.
So we finish up that night talking about it. We had 4 nice days. Last day, we spent the whole time just swimming in circles in the sand trying to keep our boat in. And I said, look, I don't want to quit on this. I'm going to go diving whatever it is. We will focus on this.
Oh, you thought about quitting after that?
Not permanently,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
stopping, not diving the next day. Focus. We wake up the next morning. I was like, well, I guess we're not going. So, well, let's go find out what's going on. That's still really helping.
Yeah.
I want to stop and can't dive. No, we're going to go out diving. This is Keys West. It'll be changed in 10 minutes. Joining us on the boat were 3 kids who had just come over from Germany. 2 guys and a girl. The one guy spoke no English. The second guy spoke a little bit English. The girl spoke pretty decent English. But we literally had fun all night together. Landed in Miami and drove down to the Keys and
Red
one
eye,
guy
yeah.
right away.
Are you doing any video or anything anymore? So, you good? Okay. I got you, man. Yeah, we're just trying to fill up.
And I'm still working on my ROV video. I learned something yesterday.
Yeah.
My camera is very happy to be underwater and film. Don't try to plug the cable into it afterwards. It takes hours to dry itself out for safety. And I was down like 10% power when I got home, and I'm like, let me charge it.
Oh, yeah. So, if I can get my gear right, I'm going to go in the water with it, with our camera on Thursday morning. It'll be a nice time of day and everything else like that. They're like, what do you want from down here? I was like, I don't know. Do you want pictures or shit or not? I can't go in the water. I need a minimum, but if you don't want pictures, then don't bring them to me.
Get back down from here tonight. I got it on the laptop finally.
Don't try to hide. I got you in the picture.
Yeah, they always take pictures of her. They never include me. I don't understand.
Please, no photos, no photos.
They told me you were in the witness protection program and I wasn't allowed to have pictures of you.
You weren't supposed to say that.
Before he got in the program, he didn't have a mustache. It's part of his
Got
disguise.
it. Yeah, no, that's the entire. Hey man, I'm not supposed to say anything either.
You're giving away the secret. See somebody with a mustache.
They're either an evil villain or they were an evil villain and they're now in the witness
Off of
protection
the whack,
program.
working on the wax strips on vacation.
Just spinning around, petting a cat.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even have a cat, but I'll get one just for the optics.
Hey, number 2, report. Okay, so we get on the boat. Actually, it was nice ride going out.
Yeah.
We need 2 dogs. But on the way out, I looked back on the store, and the dive shop was on the bay side of 7 Mile Bridge. You been down to the Keys at all?
No.
Okay. So we go onto the bridge, we're heading out, and I look back, there's a water tower. I walk up to the captain. Alex, I think his name is. He's in, they got this little cabin. Normal. Oh yeah, we see those all the time. So, okay. 10 minutes later, I go up. What? Is that normal? There's a twin water spout. I've seen one of those. He's on the radio calling the dive shop. Nobody's answering. They're all watching. I'm like, is this safe to go diving? Yeah, not a problem. We go out. On the surface of the road between the 2 dives, we saw a 3rd water spout. A mini tornado had hit Duval Street in Key West while we were diving. And in grand total, we saw 4 water spouts. But the best part of the story, my first week of diving, we're motoring back in, and the weather had shifted. And it was pouring.
It's monsoon rain.
And we're on 6 pack. The only cover is the cabin.
Yep.
Jeremy and I spoke before he went into the cabin. Again, this is a cabin for the captain. Yes. The pilot.
Yes.
German guy number 2 who spoke a little bit English went into the cabin and fell asleep. They're both like on the floor, wrapping around the console. Myself, girl, huddling on coolers up against the back wall of this cabin as best we can.
Trying to get out a little bit of cover.
As it's raining, initially we're sitting like Beth sitting next to Beth, the girls across, and we're all leaning in a little bit to stay out of rain. And a 6-pack's so narrow, you're leaning in, you're almost.
Is it like a center console or is it? No, it couldn't.
No,
be.
it's your basic boat layout. You got it's decking back. I am leaning close enough. We were late 30s when we started diving. This girl is
Camera team. Adam asked if you are on the internet, if you can get off because he can't connect through to the live stream. He's dead. He's dead in the water right now.
She finally yields and goes into the cabin. You now have 4 people in the cabin built for what? I looked at Beth and I'm like, see if you can fit. Beth managed to get in, and I rode all the way back into the dock, sitting on the cooler with my head in the cabin and the water pouring down my back going, this is miserable.
You're such a gentleman.
But I had my it's still more connecting the dots on the cruise boats.
Not much else to do in that situation.
Our next trip we went to Cozumel. I wound up in the chamber.
Oh.
But since we had stopped diving because I wound up in the chamber, I caught up to the young concierge at the hotel who was also cute and said, hey, I know that guy is swimming in the dolphin boat. Are you going to see him? Sure. So we went to swim with him. So they bring, everybody shows up, they bring on the big auditorium, they pass around a clipboard, you all sign your name on it, and then they start breaking everybody into groups of 6. 2 dolphins.
Yeah. This camp are using this.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Eco Lodge. I hope you're all having a great evening so far. All right, tonight is a very cool night here on Saba. We have Viewpoint here, we have many experts here, we have all of you here in this beautiful environment. So first of all, we would like to thank all of our sponsors. Our live streaming on Facebook is brought to you by Carib Trans. Our sponsors, Elske and Reinoud, are staying at Cottage Club, so they are sponsoring their accommodation for the week here on Saba. Yes. We'd also like to give a big round of applause for our main sponsors, Prince Bernhard Culture Funds and the public entity of Saba. And another big round of applause for all of our sponsors. A lot of them are here tonight, so a big round of applause for them, everyone. And of course, the raffle tickets. We have $5 raffle tickets, and we have lots of great prizes this year. We have a wrap made of indigo leaves by Anna Keene. We have Edie Witter's new book called Below the Edge of Darkness. It is a signed copy by Edie Witter herself. We have a bracelet and necklaces made by Marie on Saba. And we also have a glass-making class by Joe Bean. We also have a guided hike by the Saba Conservation Foundation. And we have 4 properties, 4, that are offering 3-night stays here on Saba. Flamboyant Cottage, Spyglass Villa, Compass Cottage, and Convent Cottage. All for $5. So sign up, get your raffle tickets, guys. We also have a handcrafted knife made by John. Yes, John. Yes, you're giving us a knife. And we have a lovely basket by Sabin Rock Living and a week stay on the Caribbean Explorer. Accommodation, diving, and dining is all included. Wow. So yes, sign up. We will do our draw at the end of the month. So we wanted to do a little bit of a recap what we've been up to the past few days. So starting all the way on the left at the school. At the school, Lauren Esposito, she is over there at the bar. Yep, Lauren, give a little wave. She is our spider and scorpion expert. So she went to the 1st and 2nd grade classrooms today, and they all made little clay spiders, scorpions. She brought live animals to them, so it was a really fun experience. Then in the middle, we have our previous presentation on Sunday at Brigadoon, our ROV expert, Erica Moulton. And then over on the right, she had her field project yesterday at Tropics. And a lot of you were there and had a lot of fun playing with robots in the pool. Yes, rodents. So then more upcoming events that we have. So tomorrow at St. John's, our volcano experts will be giving you a tour of one of their monitoring sites. Then on Thursday, if you missed the fun on Monday, you can do a session with Erica at Juliana's pool. And then again on Thursday, be back here, 5:30 presentation for Lauren's presentation. And now for tonight's main event, we have Elske and Reinoud. So, did you realize that we are standing on an active volcano? It's a good thing we have both a volcanologist and a seismologist right here with us. So you know, if you start to see them running, you should be following them. Dr. Elske van Dolfsen is an active volcanologist at Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute, with ongoing research to expand our understanding of the volcanoes of Saba and St. Eustatius. She has worked with observatories around the world in places like Hawaii, Indonesia, the Philippines, and even Iceland, which is where she completed her PhD. Her colleague is Reinoud Slayman, a senior seismologist at the same institute, and got his master's degree in geophysics from Utrecht University. Reinoud is good with numbers. He must be to manage the European Data Center for seismological waveform data. The data is used by earthquake emergency companies around the world to get up-to-date information to the public. So I'm happy to present the earth-shaking scientists themselves, Elske and Reinoud.
Thank you.
Let's see if it works. Yes, it works. Can everyone hear me? Right. Okay. Well, it's great to be here. I mean, I've given many presentations in my life, but never at a venue like this. So this is great, right? Let's hope the weather also let us do this, finish this without having to run away, right? And so thank you all for coming, and thank you also to the online viewers for watching. And first, would be nice to know, are all of you actually, who's from Seba? Can you raise your hand for me? Okay, so there's actually quite a few people who are not from Seba, right? But it's good to have people from the island here as well. So, well, let's get started. We're gonna. Ja, dat weet ik. So, exactly. So, what is actually an active volcano? So maybe there is a difference between what you imagine to be an active volcano and what I, as a volcanologist, imagine to be an active volcano. So, an active volcano for a volcanologist is a volcano that has erupted in the last 10,000 years. So that's a very long time ago, right? So on the left, you actually see the volcano on Statia, the Quill. To me, that is an active volcano, even though it's not erupting, right? The volcano on the right, that's St. Vincent. This was it last April. Then it was erupting. So it's an active volcano, but at the moment not anymore in an eruptive state. But in April it was, right? And so the volcano here on Seba is also an active volcano, geologically speaking. But it's not erupting, it's calm. Okay. So how do we know that Seba is a volcano? Because none of you have ever seen it erupting. So how do we know it's a volcano? Well, we see a lot of evidence on the island in the rocks that we see that it's a volcano. So on the left you see a photo of a pyroclastic flow deposit, and that's actually when a volcano erupts like St. Vincent did in April, you have these clouds, mixtures of ash and rocks, gases coming down the mountain. And they created a deposit which we call pyroclastic flow deposit, and that's actually what you see on the left here. That's all made by the volcano like that, long time ago. But to me, it's evidence that we're on a volcano, right? Also, if you look here, this is an old photo of the airport, and you can see that this is actually a lava flow. It's an old lava flow. And these are the edges. They're slightly higher than the rest of the flow. And if you drive up, you're basically driving up the lava flow towards windward side. So that's how we know that the island is actually a volcano. And then the next question is, when was the last eruption here, right? No one has seen it. There's no witnesses. But a while ago, they actually dug, this is in the bottom, and there was what they call, they dug a stratigraphic pit. And what they do when they look at a stratigraphic pit is that they look at all the different layers, and they try to go down as far as they can, and they look at what kind of material is in the layers, and then they try to find charcoal. Because once there is charcoal, then you can date the charcoal. And once you know that the charcoal was created during the eruption, then you know when the eruption took place. So they found a tiny piece of charcoal in this pit, and they dated it around this period. So it's not very strong evidence, but it's all we have. So we have to use it, right? We have nothing else. And the reason that it's so difficult to find charcoal here is because all the explosive eruptions basically killed the trees and swept them off into sea, so that it's very difficult to find any pieces that are left. Like I said, we had no witness accounts of the last eruption, so at least it must have predated the European occupation, right? If we read the literature, we also read that the people settled here on a nice grassy meadow. Now, if you look around here, it looks very tropical with lots of trees. How do you think there was a nice grassy meadow? It's very well possible that there had been an eruption not very long before that killed off the trees and created space basically for the grass to grow, and that's where the people settled. So that's another sort of clue that maybe the eruption was indeed around this date, the last eruption. So we know that Ceiba is an active volcano, geologically speaking, and we also know that because of what we know about geology in general. So the Earth is divided, the Earth's crust is divided in puzzle pieces. And of course, the Caribbean is in the center of the world, right? It's a tiny, these puzzle pieces, we call them plates, and they move. And these movements we call plate tectonics. And you can see that the Caribbean plate is quite small compared to some of the other plates. You know, this one is much larger. So it's sort of in between, and these puzzle pieces, they move and they sort of hit each other, and that's what happens in this area. So actually these islands here, they're formed on the side of the plate, and on the side of the plate where you have the Caribbean plate right here, and you have the North American plate that dives underneath the American plate. And when it does that, when it makes this dive, basically the material here starts to melt. That generates magma. The magma comes up and it forms an island and a volcano. And this is how all the islands of the arc basically are formed. They're all formed through this process, which we call subduction, with a difficult word. And it means that this process of subduction, it's still ongoing today. This is not something that has ended. You know, it started long before we were here, and it will continue in the future. And that means that this forming of magma, it will also continue. So now we have all these islands. Ceiba is right at the top, right? And all these little triangles that you see there, these are active volcanoes. So it doesn't mean they're erupting, but they erupted in the last 10,000 years, at least once. Some of them did more often, right? Yeah, I think that's all. We've now looked at a volcano that was formed in a subduction zone, right, where one plate dives underneath the other, and that's the type of volcano we have here on Ceiba, and that's what we call a stratovolcano. Most people look at a stratovolcano and it looks sort of like a cone, right? The Quill looks like a cone, Monsignori looks like a cone, St. Vincent sous Fier looks like a cone. They all look like a cone. We have other types of volcanoes too. So there's volcanoes formed also on the plate boundary, but not where the plates actually come together and one dives under the other. But these volcanoes are formed when the plates spread apart. For example, in Iceland, you have volcanoes like this, but also underneath the sea. There's many volcanoes underneath the sea, actually, that are formed like that. And these volcanoes, they're called fissure volcanoes. So they're different from the volcano that we have here. And the last type of volcano that I do want to briefly mention is a hotspot volcano. So sometimes a volcano exists in the middle of a plate. So the previous two volcanoes are on the edges of the plate, and this one is actually in the middle of a plate. Now that's a bit weird, and that's why geologists invented this thing, which is called a hotspot, right? And a hotspot is it's a big amount of melt that's very deep underneath us, and it makes its way up to the surface, and it forms a volcano. Now, a very good example of that is the volcanoes in Hawaii, for example, but also the volcanoes of the Canary Islands or the Cape Verde Islands. They're all hotspot volcanoes. And these volcanoes, they actually erupt not as violent as stratovolcanoes, and they form what we call our shield volcanoes. So it's a different type of volcano. So the photo here on the left, that's actually La Palma in the Canary Islands, which is, some of you may know, is erupting right now, right?